And welcome to the Dean Obeidallah Show and Dean's Report Live. It's Happy New Year, and look who's here. It's Joy Reid, award-winning journalist, New York Times bestselling author. Of course, she has his wildly popular Substack and her show you must watch on YouTube, The Joy Reid Show, on YouTube at The Joy Reid Show. Joy, great to see you. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone listening and watching. It's great to be a part of all of this together.
Happy New Year, Dean. Wow. You know what? 2025, I was actually literally, as I was coming down to jump on the live with you, finishing up my first Substack of the year. And the sort of premier title of it is 2025 wasn't SHIT. Do better 2026. That's the title of it, for those of you who know, because we are hoping for better. But yes, 2025 was a lot, but I'm excited about 2026, honestly.
Me too. And I think on some level, because I wanted to start with Zoran. I mean, I live in New York. I know him a little bit. We're not buddies, but we are friendly from Muslim Democrat. I have a lot of friends who are in his administration. We're on the committee and all of that. Now I wish I got to know him better, but he's been on my show and we were always a nice guy. And it was great to see his speech last night and yesterday. And to me, one of the biggest moments was this is a guy subjected to so much hate and bigotry in the closing part of the campaign. There was not a hint of anger, not a hint of bitterness, not that kind of Trump stuff. It's time for revenge. He said, I'm going to be mayor for every New Yorker. If you supported me or not, I'm going to root for you. We're going to mourn. We're going to cheer together. I will never hide from you. And that was such an important moment for me and I think for the city.
And a lot of people have been comparing him to Barack Obama, right? And if you think about it, Dean, and we talked about this, we've talked about this before. Barack Obama had to refute the lie that he was a Muslim, right? As if there's something wrong with that if he had been. But the whole way that the right, and initially the Clinton campaign tried to take him down, was by saying he's a secret Muslim. So this has been a part of our politics, really, for Obama, but really Obama is when it crystallized. This idea that this person named Barack Hussein Obama couldn't be our president because he was Black, because he was supposedly a Muslim or a secret Muslim or trying to pretend he wasn't Muslim and all of this stuff. So we've been living in this sort of sea of hate and sort of Islamophobia. And then you think about the fact that then you have Zoran Mamdani run, also who's got an unusual, interesting name, who's an African. I never let people forget this is an African. He's South Asian from Uganda, lived in South Africa, and then came here at 7 years old. So he's fully American as well, grew up in Queens like Donald Trump did. But he was subjected. It's like kind of hard to even remember it because he won. So we're kind of pushing it to the back of our minds. But people who were trying to stop Zoran Mamdani were comparing him to the people who did 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
They were using images of 9/11 and saying that he would create terrorism in the city, that essentially he was a terrorist. And then this guy, he brushed all of that aside. He didn't just win. He won by the largest margins in generations. He's a generational politician, the first Democrat in a while. We've had a few Democrats, youngest in generations, I think in like 100 years, first immigrant in a long time, and the first Muslim to become the mayor of America's financial capital. And when he took that inaugural, it felt like the Obama inaugural in 2009, both for the historic nature of it, the international nature of it. I have friends who are actually in Dubai over the New Year and said all of the people were coming up to them and saying, did you vote for Mamdani? Oh my God, Mamdani. Like they're treating him like Obama overseas. Muslims overseas are treating it like the Obama election. And the third way it was the same, baby, the cold. Our team was out there and went out to the two coldest days. The Obama inauguration was frigid temperatures and Mamdani had Obama weather for his inaugural. It was freezing.
Zoran's already affected my life. I changed my middle name. I'm now Dean Allah Akbar Obeidallah. That's what I'm going with from now on. I do have an A, Dean Abdul Obeidallah, but now it's Dean AA, Allah Akbar Obeidallah. That's right. It's on, folks. And, it's so interesting when you see the people on the right going, he wants to impose Islamic law. I'm like, no, he's a Muslim. He's not a Republican. Republicans want to turn their religion into law. They ban abortion in 12 plus states. That's turning their religion into law. There are Muslim mayors like Abdullah Hamid in Dearborn now for 2 terms. There's no Islamic law.
Yeah.
They're just passing laws to help people there. It's Republicans that want to turn their religion into law, and they accuse us of that because they're just projecting. They're like, "Well, we want to do this. They must. We don't want to do it. We're Americans. We're Americans first, buddy. We're not this kind of like I'm five things and then I'm an American, and that gets to the cheer of the RNC. That's ridiculous to me. American first.
It's so they're so literal with it, Dean. They're literally driving women out of the military and schools. Think about it. They try to claim that it's that the Taliban, the Islamic Taliban, right, are bad. We're supposed to oppose them, but it is Republicans, American Republicans, that are essentially saying, and Pete Hegseth has basically said it: women shouldn't serve in the military. When you attack DEI, the biggest recipients of DEI are white women. When you attack affirmative action, the chief recipients of affirmative action, the chief beneficiaries, are white women. So what they're effectively saying to their own women is that their only place is in the home making many babies. They don't want women in public life, in school, or in the military. Who's more like the Taliban? Mamdani, whose wife was out there, first of all, very fashionable, by the way.
Yeah.
She's about to become like a style icon. He don't seem like he keeping her down the way the Republicans are keeping their women down. Just saying. And she didn't have to get Trump face. They're like, you can only be in public if you go get that crazy surgery that plumps up your lips and your cheekbones artificially and makes you look like a mannequin.
I agree with you. And I was just checking the last number of how many Muslim female presidents there already have been in Muslim majority countries.
Pakistan had one.
Yeah, that's exactly. There's been Muslim majority countries, 9 Muslim women who have ruled nations, including Turkey, Indonesia, Pakistan, and others. And America not, but we are so ahead of them, don't you see?
Yes.
So I thought it was a great thing. I also like that Zoran made the point. I should call him Mayor Mamdani, made the point that he's not going to compromise. He's not going to let people, he's not going to say, okay, lower your expectations. You know what? I promise a lot of things, but I'm not going to be able to deliver that. He goes, no, I refuse to do that. And that's important because look, I live in New York City. People in New York get politics. We get pragmatism. You can't achieve everything. But if you were going to give in on day one,
right,
then you're like, you're a bullshitter. He's like, nope, I'm sticking to it and I'm going to go with it. I'm going to fight hard. And overwhelmingly, the things he wants, like free childcare, overwhelmingly supported. Like this would be great for America if we had free childcare around the nation.
Yes, it would. And the thing that he said that I thought really stuck with me, that I think is going to be kind of the log line that people take from his speech, is he said, I got elected as a Muslim and a democratic socialist, and that's how I'm going to govern. To paraphrase him, he said, I'm a democratic socialist. I'm not going to apologize for that. He leaned into it with his full chest and said, I'm going to govern as a democratic socialist. I got elected as a Muslim. I'm not running from that the way he did in his campaign. He was very forthright about this is my faith. He even did like really hilarious campaign ads about trying to find halal that was affordable in New York City. And he's like, the halal is $9. Like, what is happening? It's supposed to be $5, right? So it's like he leans into it. And he said, the things that I'm not going to pretend not to be a democratic socialist because I'm fearful of being deemed radical. There's nothing radical about the idea that people should be able to have affordable housing, health care that they can access and not go into bankruptcy, and childcare so that they can afford to go to work. Y'all all on the right want everybody to go to work. They want everybody to work, but they don't want you to have anywhere to leave your kid. They don't want you to have childcare. Right now, they're going after Somalis in Minnesota for having daycare centers. But yet you're saying they're on welfare. Pick one. Because if you're saying that you don't want them to be on welfare, then they need to go to work. And for them to go to work, they need to put their kids somewhere. So they need childcare centers. So people are like, why do they have so many childcare centers? Because they have kids. Where do you want them to put the kids? You also don't want them on welfare. So all of their messages are contradictory and dumb. And I'm excited about the fact this guy is too young to be cynical about politics and run on stuff he doesn't really want to do. And because he's foreign born, he can't become president. So he doesn't have some hidden agenda that he use this as a stepping stone to the White House. Although after Trump, maybe he should just run and let the court sort it out later, right? But the bottom line is he's going to push to do what he said he's going to do. That's important.
It is. And, you know, there was, to me, it sounds weird, but there's a connection between Donald Trump and Zoran getting elected. And what I mean is in December of 2015, in the 2016 campaign, Donald Trump called for a total, complete shutdown of Muslims coming to America. 10 years later, a Muslim immigrant is elected mayor. The reason the connection is that as someone who's Muslim, who was at events for years, first as a comedian and then more as a pundit and political person, was, I would say, get involved in politics. And people in our community barely. There was Keith Ellison, elected in 2006, first Muslim in Congress, but people
And
did not
Andre
want to.
Carson. Don't leave Andre Carson.
Andre's my buddy. I love right. So, but there was a few. It was Trump's demonization of Muslims, calling for a shutdown, saying Islam hates us, saying that Muslims know where the terrorists are. It resulted in the biggest spike of hate crimes against us, worse than after 9/11. Think about it. Trump's words caused more hate crimes against Muslims, mosques defaced, women with hijabs punched, that people in our communities like, we have to get involved in politics. And in fact, it's that generation where Zoran runs in 2020 in the post while Trump's still in the White House for his New York Assembly and wins. The Muslim Democrats of New York that he was involved in really came into their own in that time as people started joining it. And that's Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib win in 2018. It's all a response. But now my point in my article that I wrote is that we don't need to incentivize and inspire Muslims to get involved in politics. It's no longer the fear of Trump. It's the inspiration of Zoran.
Yes.
And people, and there's a lot of other younger Muslim Americans who were school board to running for governor. Rural Rahman running for governor in Georgia. Yeah. Lieutenant governor just won. Ghazala Hashmi, the first Muslim woman elected statewide. So like every other minority group. But at the same time, Joy, like every minority group pushing against the white power structure, you're demonized and attacked and get death threats. And the Black community knows it better than any community.
Yeah, absolutely. And the best response to that is to lean in and run anyway, because the only way to replace bad politics is with good politics, right? When people don't like politics because they don't like the specific politicians and what they're doing to your communities. So there is an answer for that. If you can find good people who are willing to run and willing to put themselves out there, any of them can win if you can vote. Again, this guy's name is Zoran Kwame Mamdani. He is from Uganda, and he is the mayor of New York City. He is an immigrant. He did go to Bronx Science. He's real. He's a smarticle. He's a smart kid. And not only is he a democratic socialist, so is the brother who's also got elected. There were two Democratic socialists who were actually elected yesterday, along with a traditional Democrat who all got inaugurated yesterday. So that doesn't matter. And the other piece of it is for people who are pro-Palestine, who feel that that is somehow a barrier to entry to politics. He was one of the founders of Students for Justice for Palestine when he was in college. So and he was very unambiguous about that. By the way, one of his first executive orders is to reverse the Eric Adams executive order that essentially tried to demonize and criminalize pro-Palestinian sentiment as anti-Semitism, that definition of anti-Semitism that the Trump regime has been demanding. He got rid of that executive order. So now people can feel free to speak freely in New York City. Hopefully Columbia University will take note.
It's interesting you mentioned the protesters too. Donald Trump last night saying, Iran, if you touch the protesters, we're coming for you. Meanwhile, in America, with the No Kings protesters, there's Trump calling us like pro-Hamas and putting an image of dropping poop on people protesting and trying to take the green card away from Mahmoud Khalil and others who were just peacefully protesting. So finally, Trump found protesters he likes, not ones in America, but ones in Iran. And look, I'm on the side of the protesters in Iran, but Trump is not there for good reasons.
At all.
No. We all know it's for the worst reasons why. So I wish the protesters the best. But I want to touch on corporate media because you used to be one of the you were in it and had to deal with that world. Look at Trump's lie after lie. Wall Street Journal actually did an interview on Thursday, and Trump shifts position on, remember the thing on his hand? It's because he shakes too many hands.
Right.
Now he says because he takes a huge amount of aspirins, more than any doctor subscribes. Why don't we know this before? He says, I didn't get an MRI, I got a CT. And then his doctor says, oh yeah, he got his CT scan and it's perfectly normal. But at least the Wall Street Journal put in 2018, Trump actually had concerning scans of his heart showing some sort of a calcification going on. That doesn't get better on its own. What happened? Trump's lying about issue after issue that deals with real life, about executing people off the coast of Venezuela and survivors and killing them. And the corporate media is like, next. Oh, that's Trump being Trump. I don't understand why in one voice they don't go in the White House briefing room and go after, or when they get in the White House Oval Office, go after Trump on these lies about the health, the mental competence, his dementia. He said he didn't fall asleep in meetings. Of course, were you dead? Either you were dead or you fell asleep in meetings. It's one or the other. Like you were not with us. You're like this. That's gone. Okay. So it's a lie. And don't get me wrong, folks. I know he lies all the time, but there's something more about this. It goes to his own competence, like a 25th Amendment thing, and killing people in our name based on lies thousands of miles from the United States of America in our name. There's
Yeah.
something wrong with that.
There's something wrong with it. And I mean, unfortunately, this isn't a new thing with media. I mean, Ronald Reagan had full dementia, and the mainstream media ignored it and pretended it didn't happen and would simply re-report and reproduce the statements coming out of the White House. One of the biggest lies and one of the most successful lies in the history of the world has been this idea of the liberal media. You and I both know there's no such thing as a liberal media, even before a handful of billionaires owned all of the media. And they own it all. I just found out about this guy named Penske, who apparently owns all of print media, like Variety and all. He owns them all. Rolling Stone, they're all owned by one guy, right?
Wow.
And I think also the Golden Globes, so like they own everything. The reality is you have a small handful of men who have always owned all the media. And all of their interests have generally been financial. The media is a business that they own, sometimes with other businesses. And so these journalists, they report up to oligarchs. And the oligarchs have a certain narrow set of interests and things that they want out there. And saying things about the president of the United States that could disrupt the markets, that could cause stocks to tumble, that could disrupt their money, they don't want that. When I was working at the artist formerly known as MSNBC, we literally had, which I call Ms. Now, because I'm not like them. I'm not going to dead name people. She said her name is Ms. Now, so I'm going to go call her Ms. Now.
That's Ms. Now.
I was working at the artist formerly known as MSNBC, Ms. Now. We literally, Dean, had pictures of Trump with his eyes straight up closed. He was definitely asleep. And we were told we could not say he was asleep.
No, really?
Yes, we were told we could not say it, standards and practices. And the bosses were like, if the White House says he was praying, because he was in church, if they say he was praying or he was thinking, or we need to see all the video before and after, but you can see that he was asleep. Everyone around him, eyes are open. If their eyes are open, his eyes are closed, unless he's the only one praying. So we had instances where the media never has wanted to be in common. And people think of that network as being very anti-Trump. No networks are anti-Trump. You just have certain people within those networks who have integrity as journalists who want to tell the truth and who go out and do the work of telling the truth. The New York Times has them. The Washington Post has them. Even CBS News with Barry Weiss running them into the ground. There are journalists there with integrity who want to tell the truth. But at the end of the day, they eventually will bump up on the limits of what the bosses and the owners won't allow. There's a line they will not allow crossed because their business interests have to do with being friendly with the White House, of having Brendan Carr not go after them, of having Trump not tweet bad things about them. They don't want to be at war with the president. They don't. And so they're going to be very, very careful when it comes to Trump. And saying he's lying for a really long time was a bridge too far for most mainstream media. It just was not allowed because they don't want to be crosswise with the White House.
I'm sure you've talked to journalists when you were there, and even now when you're outside of corporate media, they go into becoming a journalist with the best intentions. They want to be Woodward and Bernstein. They want to break the news, and they do. That's what they really want. And then they're told by the corporate executives, you can't do this, you can't do that, even though they know it's against their instincts and their principles as a person. Do you just navigate that? Not you per se, but do they navigate that by saying, well, in the bigger picture, I'm helping, or I'm getting paid well enough where I got to make certain compromises? How do you do that on a level as a human being?
I think it's hard, and there's a certain point at which people break. You saw what happened when 60 Minutes, when Barry Weiss shelved a legitimate story that 60 Minutes, which is one of the finest news outfits in this country, one of some of the best journalists in America, work for 60 Minutes. But when they completed that story and started promoting it, they had put out trailers for this 60 Minutes report about CCOT, about the U.S. sending mainly people with no criminal records. And by the way, even if they had criminal records, who had not been through an adjudication, there had been no trial, there had been no conviction. They just scooped up these men because they were brown, because they were Venezuelan, and shipped them off to CCOT. Without a trial, without anything, disappeared them basically like the old regimes in South and Central America used to do. They did this report where they talked about how they were abused. Some of them were sexually abused. They were starved. They were put in freezing conditions. This was horrific, done in our name, as you said earlier. Mm-hmm. And Barry Weiss shelved it. This woman with no experience running a newsroom, who got booted out of the New York Times, really left the New York Times because nobody couldn't stand her over there. She's Miss Ironic Anti-DEI. She's a lesbian mother of, I don't know how many kids she and her wife have, but her whole thing is being ironic and being against wokeism and being against DEI. The billionaires who bought Paramount CBS put her in charge of CBS News, the Tiffany network. And now she's in there essentially enforcing no criticism of Israel. You're going to be nice to Israel up in here. Tony DeCopo about to be the head of CBS Nightly News, CBS Nightly News. So we're going to be pro-Israel, and we're not going to be mean to Trump. And if the Trump administration won't go on the record and respond to our reports, the report gets shelved. That gives the White House a veto over any news report as long as they just don't respond on the record, which she has instituted there. What happened then is that was too much for the correspondent of that story, and she put out a memo that went throughout and then leaked. And I'm sure deliberately leaked because they want it known that they don't agree, they object. Connie Chung has come out publicly saying she doesn't even watch CBS News anymore because she don't trust nothing coming out of there with these crazy people in charge of it because it's not real news anymore. It's manufactured dissent. It's manufactured. It's controlled. So they do a little bit of news that tells the truth about Trump to make you think that they're holding him accountable. But for the most part, hands off.
And look, this is the corporate media world. And, the points you're making are so important. And it's things I've talked about in the past. The idea of looking at corporate media like it's going to be good for the public is like looking at a health insurance company like it's really about helping, or a big pharma company. They're about profit.
Yeah,
that's what they're about raising shareholder stock value. So in turn, they get benefits. Others, like the Ellisons, like Larry Ellison, who really owns CBS through his son David running it, he's a multi-billionaire. So there's a propaganda angle, or at least a political angle of what he wants out there. He said he doesn't care if stocks go up or down. Other executives do. Their stock price is tied off into their compensation.
That's right.
They're about so they've got to do that. And it's like I can't believe Citibank put making money over the good of the people. No, I'm not going to say that because you'd be like, of course Citibank's doing that. It's no different than Comcast or CNN's, parent company. All those. That's why independent media is so vitally important. And I really hope we can get ready for 2026 because I wanted to touch on 2026 with an eye to it in your new articles about it. Like, how can we play a role collectively? Because maybe even together, me and you can't get to CBS, but can we build a bigger network with all of us, the grassroots, that we can get the message out, the truth out to people, and debunk the bullshit that we get from Trump and the corporate media?
I think the best inoculation against what's happening to mainstream media, because again, maybe 6 billionaires own all the media. Let's just be clear. They own all of it. New York Times is still its own company, but for the most part, most media has been consumed and absorbed. There's very few local newspapers left. Sinclair Broadcasting, as you and I both know in radio, has eaten up a lot of what used to be independent talk radio stations. Those are almost all gone. A lot of the news you get on your traffic and weather together, Sinclair owns the TV networks. They only own the ABC and the CBS and the NBC. If you ever go on, we use Critical Mention to try to find news stories, you can find the exact same script in different cities where people in different cities are getting literally the same text, the same words coming out of different mouths all over, because those are Sinclair stations. If they cancel Jimmy Kimmel in one net market, they cancel him in all their markets, right? So it's all controlled. And as you said, it's for propaganda, because at the end of the day, what they want is for the public not to do a French Revolution on them. They don't want the public to be mad at billionaires. They want the wealthy to be perceived and to be portrayed as the good guys. Corporations are the good guys. They're good people. There's nothing wrong with wealth. Capitalism is good. Anything that stands with capitalism is bad. Socialism is bad. Taxation is bad. They want these certain messages put through, and they want Trump to be respected, treated as he's normal, treated as if he's not sick, treated as if he doesn't have dementia. All of these are their interests. And so I think the best cure for that is to stop giving them your business. Stop giving them your eyeball. The attention economy is what we can control. And so I'm hoping that a lot more consumers will say, you know what? Let me find trusted voices, people I trust, not networks I trust, but individual journalists, communicators, people like you. I trust you. So let me curate my experience and get my news and information from my curated list of trusted voices. That is far better. That way you can still consume the corporate media members doing good journalism in corporate media, consume them individually. You know what I'm saying? Don't sit
Sure, I understand.
mainline the artist formerly known as MSNBC, or just mainline CNN, or mainline, I don't know why anybody watch Fox, but that's how you get caught in propaganda. You need to just curate your experience. I trust you. I trust you. I'm going to listen to Dean. I like Wajahat Ali. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to pick these different people and make that my experience.
So let me ask you a tough challenge, a tough question, which I even at times struggle with the idea of I will never say things that are untrue. That's a given. So we're never going to lie, stuff like that. But you know what your audience wants. Like if they're watching you on Substack, I know what they want on SiriusXM. And sometimes they want me to go to a place that I'm like, I'm just not there, not psychologically, but I'm a lawyer. So a lot of times I'm like, there's not the legal evidence. I need, and I'll tell them, I want to go where you are, but I'm missing this one piece of, and then I'll get emails like, why you this? Or they'll have a guest on who isn't as ferocious as they want, even though the person's saying the truth. So how do we navigate that? Because if we lose our credibility, we're nothing, and I don't want to lose it.
Right.
So I don't want to deliver every piece of red meat everyone wants until it's earned. Then I'm very happy. Believe me, I want you to have red meat. I want to have a heart blockage through the real truth, not through the Donald Trump bullshit. So what do we do?
And I think the way that we do it, at least on the Joy Reid Show and on our Substack, what I try to do is I just take y'all behind the curtain. My whole thing is complete transparency. And I used to do it, and I don't think my bosses loved it, but I would even do it at MS. I'm just going to tell you how this stuff works behind the scenes. So, for instance, if we don't know if a fact is true, on Inauguration Day in New York City, we live streamed the entire Mamdani public inauguration, right? He had a private ceremony. We played that, and then we live streamed the whole thing while we commented on it, and we had a guest on and did things like that. But number one thing we did that they don't do in mainstream media, we played the whole thing. So even when people who weren't famous were talking, you got to hear them. That's one thing the media will cut away or go to commercials during the non-famous people. We didn't do that. But the other thing I did is people in the chat were having we're asking questions, and we were trying to answer them in real time. One of the big questions about the Mamdani inauguration was whether Chuck Schumer showed up and whether House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries was there. We had 3 correspondents, including Nitha Khan, who you know very well. Your buddy Nitha. So our correspondents were there, and we asked them, take a picture of the dais or send us images of that. We posted it, and we said, we don't see them. Now, I can't say whether they were there or not. There were people in the chat saying they were there, some they weren't. But I'm not just going to say, just to be mean to Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, that they weren't there. Because I don't know that they weren't there. My correspondents looked at the screen, and we said, we don't see them. But we're going to try to confirm whether they were there. And I think having those real conversations with people and being honest when you don't know. If you don't know the information, just say you don't know. And I think that's how you keep your credibility. I'm not willing to lie. I'm not willing to say something just because it would be spicy. But I'm going to walk you through my process of how I'm getting to the facts and be very open about that. I think that's the best thing we can do.
That's great to hear. I did see pictures with Chuck Schumer there at some point. I'm not sure how long he was there. Certainly, I did not see Hakeem Jeffries at all, not even a hint of him.
The dais, which is weird. And by the way, this is what I was saying online yesterday during our broadcast. If Chuck Schumer, if a United States, by the way, you notice nobody even asked about the other senator. They knew she wasn't going to be there.
Gillibrand was not there because she had said some garbage stuff. Right,
they're on the wrong side of history, and it's so embarrassing for me, the Democrats of New York. But anyway, what I was saying is, I hope they were there because it would be terrible for their politics to have missed the most historic inaugural in my lifetime in New York City, period. This is an historic moment. This was an Obama-level moment for New York, for Muslim Americans, for minorities, for immigrants, for people who are of African descent, people who are of South Asian descent, people who just are Americans who love the diversity that makes America great and the diversity that makes New York possible. This was an historic moment. I hope they were there because to skip that and to miss it was a mistake. And I said, if both of those two very important leaders of the Democratic Party were on the dais, it would have been logical for them to speak. There was a United States Senator there, Bernie Sanders. There was a member of Congress there, AOC. If those two even more senior Democrats had been there, you would think they would have had something to say and gotten on the mic. The fact that they didn't, that alone, Dean, that's great. Isn't that wild to you that they wouldn't have been there to be a part of it?
Even Trump invited Zoran and sat next to them at the White House
and practically held his hand and hugged him.
He's my boy now, and he heard Elise Stefanik so much he dropped out of the race for God because he wouldn't call her a jihadist. He wouldn't call Zoran a jihadist.
No.
I don't think he is. Elise is going to have to answer. And that was so bad for her campaign. And I live in New York. She dropped out and she's not running for re-election as Congress. That's a win-win for America, folks.
Win.
She's awful, Elise Stefanik. So I was like, wow. So, and because Trump, he is so desperate. Also, everything's through the prism of celebrity. And Trump became a celebrity. So that transcends everything. He's like, this guy
became Bubba for him, basically.
Right. Like, he's like, sorry. So before I let you go, where can people follow you, check out your YouTube? Obviously, the Substack they know from here, but your YouTube show and what else is coming up that you want to share?
Absolutely. Well, one of the big things that's coming up on The Joy Reid Show, which you can find really easily, you can either type Joy Reid Show in YouTube or just go to thejoyreidshow.com, REID, please, thejoyreidshow.com. That puts you right on the YouTube. Please subscribe. We are climbing. And look, we're doing it organically. We're not buying followers. We're not doing any of the sort of, underhanded things people do to try to grow. And I don't know. I'm not accusing anyone of doing it. I don't know who does it.
I understand.
We're just organically growing and we love all of our followers. So if you would like to support, you can go to thejoyreidshow.com. Please also subscribe at joyannereid.com, which is the Substack. And one of the great things that we have coming up on the 6th of January, you're going to get to see my sit down, our team sit down with Zoran Mamdani. So we did it a little bit different. We went out to African luncheon with him. we literally were like, we're going to take him for African food. To take him from some food that he might remember from his childhood and really talk to him about who he is as a person, not so much the politics, but really just get to know him as a person. And so it was a really fun interview. It was very brief. They didn't give us a lot of time with him. So we're trying to get back and really do a proper sit down with him as mayor. But this was before he was mayor. So this was in December we taped it. And so we have a really great special coming up on January 6th at thejoyreidshow.com. So please subscribe and please head over there and watch that on the 6th. And then you can catch us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when we go live 2 hours at a time, 3 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday.
Wow. That's great. And then congratulations on the interview with the mayor. And you're playing then on January 6th, where Donald Trump will be playing on January 6th, the best of January 6th, as he celebrates the terrorists. He's going to turn January the same way,
holiday,
the same way Hitler every year honored those killed in his Berhold Putsch in 1923. Trump is going to turn January 6th into a day of honoring those who attacked the Capitol and beat up police officers and who were unfairly treated the same way Hitler did for those who were killed in his putsch or his coup attempt. This is where we live in America. So, all right, my friend, it's great seeing you. Thanks, everybody, for joining. It's a lot. I wish I had time to read the comments. A lot of great people putting comments here. They know you. Some know me. But thank you all. Have a happy New Year to you, Joy, to your family, your husband, and your whole family, and everyone tuning in. Take care, my friend.
Thank you.